I'm excited to get going and show you all some examples. Some of this is probably some review for some of you, depending on your sphere and the groups you're a part of, maybe online or in different areas. Hopefully, especially the second half of our time together, there will be some fun ideas and some good discussion opportunities where you can put in some things that you've seen, that you've tried, that you're curious about, to hopefully really spur on some conversation. And that's really what I'm hoping these webinars that I've started doing monthly is the idea, is to stir on conversations and to keep going with what is happening right now, what is important and what is needed in what we're doing. So again, thank you for jumping in. Others might jump in, but we're going to jump on and get going. This is being recorded, and I will send the recording out to everybody that registered after the session today. Thank you for being here as we discuss this topic of AI and education. And my name is Nathan Wells. So thanks for joining in today. I'd love to connect with you. So I'm at EdTech Wells on basically all the socials except for LinkedIn. You can just search my name. And the rest of them, though, you can connect with me. Love to stay in touch after this. And the biggest thing is to find out what you're doing. So if you take any of this content or any of this discussion today and do stuff with it in your classroom, in your school environment, whatever your position is, I'd love to hear about it. Please share both on social or even just reach out individually. This is a rough agenda, but know that this is not where we're going to stick to. And I say that because the first two, we're going to zip right through, and I'm just going to provide you some resources. If you'd like to dive deeper yourself, you can. And we're going to really focus on point 3, which is how and why, or how and where to get started. The why and kind of what is, hopefully you've seen some things. I'll give us a basic definition to work with, and then we're going to get going. But to do that, let's first kind of level set. So if you could, again, use the chat. Awesome to see some of you dropping the chat where you're joining us from. I know we have people registered from all over, so thank you for being with us and for joining. But first discussion point, other than where you're from, if you haven't put that in yet, please go ahead and do that. But first discussion point on top of that is, what have you already used or experimented or read about? Even maybe you haven't used it, but maybe you've checked out some different tools that are out there. What AI tools have you already seen? Are you already familiar with? And this is kind of cool too, because I know we have people joining from all over the world, and there might be some AI tools that are more familiar in some areas than others. So that would be kind of cool to even be able to share and learn from each other, even right here at the very beginning. So love to hear what you've been using so far. ChatGPT, an art generator. Cool, Nancy. I'd love to hear what that is. Copilot, Bard, ChatGPT. Diana's in all of them. All right, nice. We're going to talk about those large language models a little bit. And Google just released their newest one on top of Bard too, which is fun. Yeah, I love that you put Alexa. Nice. Because yeah, that's absolutely an AI tool. We sometimes don't think of it like that. Hi, Jennifer. Diffit, I don't know that one. Kirapod, Magic School, nice. I know, Scott. And I'm going to say this multiple times, I am not talking about, this is not 30 tools in 30 minutes or like running through the list, because every day there are literally more and more hundreds of new AI tools popping up. So we're definitely not going to go through a list of tools, but it's fun to see kind of what you have experience with and what you're interested in or already learning about, which is great. Awesome. Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing those. That just kind of helps me get in my head where we're at. And then also it's fun to learn from each other. So I said, let's level set. So let's start with a definition we can all agree on. So what is AI, or artificial intelligence? And this is just straight from the dictionary. It's the ability of a computer or machine to perform those activities or tasks that are normally thought to require intelligence. So it's this ability to take something that the computer has been given, the program has been given, and do a activity, a task with it, right? And so that's where we're starting from. Now, again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this definition piece, but just really quickly to, again, kind of think through, all right, in the chat, a lot of you put you're using some tools already. So you've got a pretty good idea of what we're talking about here. But what are some other ways? These are very common. This is specifically the Microsoft suite. So if you're using other things outside of the Microsoft suite, just change that too. So Microsoft has PowerPoint Designer, Google Slides, the Apple tools, right? All of them have their own versions of these. Analyzing data quickly. Excel does that. You can actually just put that into a Google search, right? And say, give me a graph from this equation, and it'll actually show a graph to you. That's all AI powered, right? That's bringing together all these AI tools to put these things together. And the ones that we don't always think about, that I was like, oh, it's just a feature of my phone, right? I've been using this for a decade now. Speech recognition, service bots on company websites, word prediction. I've noticed recently word prediction is even in OneNote, which is my favorite tool I use all the time, every day. It's coming up in all these places. So these are common things that we're seeing all around us, right? The AI is literally everywhere. It has been for a long time. But what's exciting, and you can kind of see this brief history here in my slide, but there's more and more popping up all the time. And I'm going to grab some resources to pop in chat as I talk through some of this. But what we're going to focus in on is what has really kind of come to education more recently in the generative AI space. And generative AI is this subfield of artificial intelligence, right? Where it's creating systems, it's generating new examples, such as images, text, similar other pieces. But it's all coming from a data set. And that's a really key piece if we start thinking about too helping our students understand AI and generative AI, is where is the information coming from that that AI system is using to create, to generate something. It's not coming out of thin air. It has to come from a data set. Maybe you've heard there's some bigger companies that are being questioned and or sued because they've used copyrighted material to teach their AI, right? So that means if you use that AI, it could be pulling from a copyrighted work. So it's not generating from thin air again. It's got to have something that's feeding that model, right? And so that's an important piece of kind of digital citizenship, thinking through that. Generative AI, its big three are create, communicate, and code. And maybe you've seen this before, but that's an important piece to remember too, is like that's what it's really good at. And we're going to focus on two of those. And then large language models. This is a little bit interesting to get our heads wrapped around. This is a resource I'm just going to drop in the chat if you want to go farther in this. This is off of Microsoft Learn, which is their free online courses that you can go on and take. Anybody can. It focuses on what is a large language model and kind of helping get your head around like what it is and how it can be used. And it really helps focus in on some of these pieces. And it's coming again from billions, trillions of data sets that it's learning from. And it's really good, and we're going to see this in an example in a second, at classifying, summarizing, translating, generating, and putting together dialogue. And it's doing it more and more now in a natural language. So when I ask Beam Chat a question, it says, sure, I can help you with that. Here's an example of, right? It's very natural in the way that it's discussing things and how it's presenting itself, which is newer in the last couple years, right? That's what's been so cool to see in the realm of AI, is how it's moving forward. So now, here's the fun stuff that we're here to talk about, right? How is this supporting, and what can we do as educators with AI? And some of these maybe you could think of off the top of your head already, but the key ones I'm going to focus in on, or kind of give some examples, is around feedback sets, strategies, resources, rubrics, criteria, lesson plan ideas. I love that. Basically, it's like a brainstorming partner, exemplar text, documentation, and formative assessments, right? These are all pieces that AI, specifically some of the ones that you all have named, like ChatGPT, Copilot, Bing Chat, Curipod, and Magic School even do this some. Like they're really good at you giving it some of these simple, like, hey, I need this, and here's my parameters, and boom, it gives you something really quick and easy that is great to get started with. What I also want to point out, and where I think the newer large language models like Copilot, Bing Chat, ChatGPT, Bard are really shining, is where we as educators don't have time for. So I loved this. I got this from weform.org, and McKinsey and Company is a large survey machine that does surveys and statistics for things around the world. They did a survey a few years back with educators in Canada, Singapore, United Kingdom, and the United States. And what does your day look like? What does your day consist of? And you'll notice the blues, the shades of blues on the right, are actual interactions with students. We can have a whole discussion on that, but I'm not going to focus on that today. And then on the left, the blacks and grays are everything else, 51% of a teacher's week. Look at that. Look at the hours spent in preparation, evaluation, feedback, and administration. We'll come back to PD. But look at those other three. How can we use tools in these AI tools that we've all been mentioning to really cut that back? Then we can focus on differentiation, individual student meetings, family communicate, right? All those pieces, and AI can support those too. But I thought that was a wonderful visual for thinking about what is a great goal to have when looking at using AI in my classroom, in my school, with the teachers I support. I mean, especially my mind goes to when I was an ed tech coach in my district here in Phoenix, Arizona. And there's so many things I could have quickly put out for folks if I had had a tool like this. And now you all do. All right, I am going to jump into Copilot. And again, I'm using Microsoft's Bing Chat, or now called Copilot, to come up with some examples. Bard, ChatGPT, and some of the other tools you all have mentioned do very similar things. So I don't want to discount some of those other tools as well. This is just the one that I'm choosing to use at this time. So I am in Bing Chat here. And in Bing Chat, I can put in a prompt. So I just go to bing.com/chat. That's actually the URL here is how I got to this page. And when you do that, bing.com/chat, when you come to this page, you can log in, or if you're already logged into the Edge browser, you can do that. If you're opening it up in Chrome or Safari, Firefox, it now supports in Firefox as well. It will ask you to log in with a Microsoft account, but you can create a free account. I have my free account open right here. This is just a free Outlook.com account. And once you're logged in, it saves all of your searches recently. You can see mine on the right-hand side there. And then you can also just get started right away. And so it's super easy to get going. And there's a couple of things I want to highlight and give you some really practical examples. One of them is, as a supporting educators, I recently had somebody say, like, hey, we're talking about climate change, we're talking about how different types of animals are impacted by their environments and what they eat. So a teacher asked me to look at Arctic wolves. And I'm just gonna be honest, I don't know a ton about Arctic wolves. I know they're white, I know they live in the north. That's about all I know, right? So I start looking at all these websites, and I found a really good one, but man, as I start looking at this, that's a lot of pieces to look through, right? Like, oh my goodness, how am I going to summarize this quickly? And going back, those administrative tasks, that preparation time, how can I reduce this time? Because I'm in the Microsoft Edge browser, Copilot, which is this little symbol at the top right of my screen, is built in. And so I love this. I feel like a magician every time I do this. When I'm on a page, I'm like, okay, I just need to know the top things. When I click Copilot, I can just, and I didn't type this in, it just gives you this as an option: generate page summary, summarize main points, or then it gets into some other suggestions too. But for my purposes, I want to generate page summary. So in a couple of seconds, instead of me trying to read through this page and pull stuff out, I can ask Bing Chat to do that for me. And now I have some really succinct pieces out of this whole page, this whole article. And I could ask it to add more. I could ask it to, here's it even give me some suggestions here, answers from the web instead of just this page. I can ask it to drill down to some things, or one of my favorites is summarize at a, let's say, actually this was a fourth grade class, fourth grade level. And you could even give it a very specific reading level. It really can get smaller. Or I could say, write this as a lesson plan, and all of a sudden it generates a lesson plan for me, right? Which is fantastic. I love, okay, see, it even simplified the headings for each of those. It still links to a reference, which is just this website, but I love that it keeps that there. Great for teaching our students those digital skills. So that's fantastic, right? That's a really great way to get started. Another way that you can do this, and I'm just going to close the sidebar because now I'm in the full one. And I went ahead and grabbed a standard. Here's another standard that I needed some help with. And this one was, I knew the standard I needed to teach. It's a sixth grade science standard, but I just need a lesson plan put together so I can get started. Again, this goes to kind of that brainstorming piece where I don't have time to write a full lesson plan. If this can help me, that will save me so much time. Then I can put it in maybe our district or your school has a specific lesson plan format you need to use, or you need to go in and kind of change some things. Or maybe you're like, man, this is a really great idea. And it helps you think then of what else you could add to this lesson. And we can see it's in real time here. It's giving me some ideas based on the standard. Now, this standard was focused on motion and forces acting on each other, right? You can see it pulled from these resources at the bottom. So I could go into like, all right, what is Science Buddies? And I can open that in a new tab, and it gives me another, this is, where it's pulling the activity, some activity ideas from. So this is awesome. So it gives me those resources, and I can even go step farther if I wanted to. But let's go to a new topic. So that was pretty awesome. This is, I just want to show a couple of different ways you can use this. This is an Algebra 1 standard. And again, I just said create a lesson plan from Algebra 1 standard. And in this case, I gave it the Common Core standard as my example. And it's solving simple equations. But man, I was hitting a brick wall like, oh my gosh, I don't want them to do a worksheet. Like, what's another fun activity? So here it's like, okay, going to do some whiteboards. It gives me some sample equations that they can use, because sometimes that's half the battle with math. Scott can back me up on this, is you know what you want to teach, but man, coming up with those quick math problems to give them as examples, it takes time. Now, okay, this is cool, but this lesson actually is kind of boring still. All right, so let's ask Bing Chat to make an activity for that lesson. So I'm like, man, I just need something that's a little bit more active for the students. So here it's like, okay, all right, so now it's going to divide them into pairs, give them their question sets and have them solve it together. And then we can review it as a class. Okay, kind of a think, pair, share, right? But sometimes half the battle with math is real world examples. So I'm like, okay, Bing Chat, give me some example problems to get going that I can use with those student groups. There we go. And now that I have those sample problems, I'm going to ask it for those real world applications so that I can give this in a more relatable way to the kids. Yes, they need to practice those problems, but what's something really specific I can give them? We know students don't like word problems, but sometimes a real world example that we can work through together is really helpful. And look at this. Yeah, I would not have come up with that on my own. Love this. Traveling. Yeah, see, this is fantastic. So I don't know how, if you were timing me, but I just went from, I need to solve this standard. It gave me a full lesson plan. I asked for a problem set and a real world example, and the amount of time it took me to speak a couple sentences. Like, this is what we talk about when we start talking about saving time, right? This is huge. This is so awesome. Another, real world example is I get to go to London at the end of January to go to BET UK, which I'm super excited about. And we're going to be delivering the Microsoft Certified Coach training program there, the first UK cohort in January. So I pulled up this website about visiting London in January because I know it's going to be cold. I'm like, man, I need to prepare. And again, this is a long article. I'm tired from a day of work. I don't really want to read all this. So I went to Copilot, and let's refresh this. Start from scratch. and said, generate a page summary. And it gave me some great ideas. And then it also gave me, yep, there's the weather. Awesome. Not awesome. I'm in the desert. That sounds cold. How to dress appropriately. Yep, I don't have any waterproof shoes. And then it also gave me some other places that I could go look. So those are just some great real world examples to kind of help me get started with this. Another example that I think is really helpful is, or another place to get examples, let me rephrase that, is if you're not on Twitter or other social media platforms, I would recommend following some people and checking out. So like I said, I'm not here to give you like 30 different tools to go look at today, but if you want to, if you don't know Mark Anderson, this is on X, formerly Twitter. He's also on Instagram, I think at the same. He is putting out this fun, he called it an advent calendar, but it's 24 days of AI. So there's all these different tools. Maybe you've heard of them, maybe not. And when you click on them, they take you to that tools page and you can learn more. So I thought these were kind of fun. And then Microsoft Designer, I've been digging around with. You may have seen my second slide had a picture of me, but it wasn't necessarily me. It was actually one that I designed, and I used my colleague Becky's template that she put on there. And this is a Microsoft Designer template to create yourself in a kind of a cartoon fashion, which is really fun. So if you'd like to try those for yourself or find out more from theirs, I'll put those in the chat as well. And you can go and check those out. Because I think half of understanding and getting used to ed tech is being able to know what's out there and what you have access to and being able to discover and see what others are doing, right? Like just following Mark's tweet here and the comments that people have said, I've learned a few things about some of these tools that I hadn't used. So there's more and more here you could dig into. So I would encourage you to get on, check out AI and education hashtag, look at some of the other places that people are posting things, and looking at some of these tools. Now, the only thing I would caution is don't get lost, right? There's so many and we can't try them all, especially if you're still in the classroom. You can't, like, pick one. Like, I think Bing Chat is a fantastic way to get started for the examples that I showed a few moments ago. It's easy to get started. The other thing I wanted to show that I thought was really fun about the Microsoft Designer is when you're logged in with Microsoft Designer to a Microsoft account, again, a free account you can use, it saves every little option you do in your OneDrive. Some of these are pretty funny. I thought this one was pretty funny. It's like a little, I don't know, album cover or something. I don't know what's going on with the twin here, but some of these are kind of funny, and you can see how many times I redid it to try to get something that I thought was decent. These are hilarious. So if you haven't played with that, I encourage you to check that out and see what you can come up with in yours. But I also want to pause for a second and give you a chance to talk about what you see as coming or what you can see coming out of this. So if you have a phone and you'd like to scan the QR code, feel free to do that. If you would like to participate, I'll drop the link in the chat. This is a word cloud using Microsoft Forms. So as you type a word and enter it, your response will show up here, and we'll all be able to see kind of how do you see AI being used in education, whether it's for you or maybe it's like broader education in general. How do you see this starting to be used? Love to have a quick kind of brainstorming minute here of how you see this benefiting, how you see it being used, whether that's being seen like right now or being seen as in how you can see it coming in the future. Lizzie, did that Liz, did that link I put in the chat not allow you? Okay, un momento. Let me go back and make sure, oops, make sure that anybody, I apologize, there it is. Okay, so now you should be able to use that link. Try it again. Thank you for saying that, Nancy and Liz. There you go. Try that link again for me. I apologize. Went too quickly there. And even if the form's not working, I love word clouds. I think they're fun and they're just really a cool way to collect information. But if it's more comfortable for you just to drop it in the Teams chat, feel free to do that as well. Still no bueno. Okay. Oh yeah, it didn't save, did it? So I keep clicking thing. Okay. That changed the link? I don't think it did it? Okay. There it should work. Thanks, Scott. Yeah, so try that now. Again, I love word clouds, but if it's too much trouble, you can drop it in the Teams chat too. But I'd love to see, what are your thoughts? Like, how are you seeing, whether it's things I've shared, things you've tried? Because it sounds like a lot of you are already doing some really cool stuff. Love to see kind of what you're thinking, or maybe it's something totally different than what we've looked at now. Analyzing data, right? I didn't have time to go through that. There are so many cool things that it can do, and the time saving that it can give you for taking all of your assessment data, class data, and then we get into the student applications, right? My daughter is in 8th grade, and they did a whole science project collecting data over a period of weeks on a couple of different things they were doing. And all they did was drop in every student's data in one place, and they had an instant graph. And it's just beautiful, right? It shows the highs, the lows, the median, where it's going next with predictive analytics. Like, really cool stuff. Really cool stuff can be done there. Feedback. One of my favorite things, I talked to a professor in U of A, Scott, down in Tucson, Arizona, and he's in the engineering program. And the biggest thing they're seeing for AI right now is that assessment, or I'm sorry, that feedback piece. Because they're, especially year 3, year 4 engineering students, they're working on these complex projects. And for a professor to go through and give feedback takes hours and hours to give feedback. And so they're dropping in pieces of those projects into things like ChatGPT, being Copilot, and it's helping them with their rubric, right? You have to put in your rubric, and they're instantly being able to give feedback to these year 4 students who are ready for their careers, right? Like, they're at the end of their education journey. And so they need that feedback to iterate and to keep learning. I thought that was really cool. Plan and creation, think on the fly. That's a really good one. Yeah, because again, the problem sets, that was always my struggle. I taught a math course in the summers when I was teaching social studies, not math, but I taught social studies during the year. Did like a recovery math class during the summer, and I always had trouble coming up with like quick math sets because that's not my mind. So yeah, that think on the fly piece is huge. So yeah, thanks for sharing, everybody. Stay in touch with each other. I hope you all are able to find some folks on this call that you can learn from, connect with, being able to go through and learn from each other. This is fun to kind of see your all's responses. So thank you for dropping those in, and thank you for joining me today.